Welcome to Pario magazine, where I chat with individuals who have a desire to create. Today, I'm joined by an entrepreneur who wants to help celebrate love by bringing the party to your wedding. Welcome to Pario magazine, Brenden Fing.
Hey mate, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So, we're here today to chat about your journey launching the small business Married by the Beard. Before we dive into that, though, do you want to give our audience a little intro as to who Brenden is away from the marriage and wedding world?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, sports tragic is probably the best summation. If there's a sport being played somewhere, I've probably got a team or a dog in the fight in that competition.
Mhm.
I'm a big Swans fan, Chelsea FC, obviously like yourself.
Yep.
Um, Big West Tigers fan, Baltimore Ravens, Boston Celtics. They're
Don't
probably
like that
my
last one.
main teams. And then when I'm allowed to watch sport, of course, and then when I'm not watching sport, I've got two kids. I've got Harry, who's 8, and Lenny, who's about to turn 2. She is keeping us all on our toes at the moment. Um, and aside from that, I work full time. I have a full time job as a senior talent specialist for Clemenger Group, who are the country's biggest creative agency. Um, that's about all I've got time for really in my life, aside from the business now.
Okay. So as I
Yeah.
mentioned, Married by the Beard, an almost one-stop shop for a good chunk of your wedding needs, providing a marriage celebrant, DJ, and MC services.
Yeah.
Where did you develop this passion, and what ultimately inspired you to go and launch a business?
The passion, where did it come from? That's a good question. Well, look, I've been a DJ for 20 plus years, so music, that part of what I offer has always kind of been in my bones and something that I've loved. And I was really inspired, I think, to become a marriage celebrant through the process of my own wedding. Um, we had a fantastic celebrant, and he really helped motivate me to kind of do the job for myself as well. I am happiest when I'm around people. I'm definitely a talker. My wife would probably say too much, but nevertheless, it is what it is. And that was really the motivation. It was like, okay, first thing, I can solve 3 needs for people on their day. I've got no problems being in front of a microphone. I've been DJing for 20 years, and I love love. It's really like being around people in their happiest moment. There's nothing bad about that. So why wouldn't I want to have that in my life as well, and be able to give these moments to people and be able to tell their story and really put some romance and some comedy in there as well. It just felt like it was the right fit for me to use the skills that I've already got to monetize them and create my own business.
Okay. Was it always the plan to offer the 3 pillars of the business, or was it initially like the DJ side
Um,
was the main focus?
Look, the celebrant side was actually the main focus, to be honest. I wanted to get up and started as a celebrant before I considered DJing. I was already DJing weddings, so that was no problems. But my main focus was actually learning the craft and becoming the best celebrant that I can be in that time as well. And so the DJ thing kind of made sense as I went through the course, and it kind of I understood where I was and what my offering would be, and checking out the socials of other people in the industry, seeing what they've got to offer, a little bit of research, and is there anyone else who's offering the service that I'm offering? And there is, yes. There's a couple of other people doing it. I'm sure they're all very good at their jobs, but I still felt like my offering as a celebrant and my background as a DJ gave me a bit of an edge in terms of what my product would be, how premium that product would be.
Okay, awesome. And, you mentioned sort of being inspired by your own wedding. How much did that experience sort of help you grow this idea and develop it a little bit further?
Yeah, big time. Absolutely. Well, look, in the lead up to my own wedding, I attended multiple weddings, both as a DJ and as a guest with my wife. And through the process of finding a celebrant, it wasn't easy for us. We're pretty laid back, relaxed people, but we really wanted someone on the day to be able to deliver that kind of ceremony. We didn't want anything over the top formal. We wanted people to be chilled out, comfortable in their seats, more of a conversation than anything else. And we found it really hard to find that. We found a lot of people who had kind of a templated approach
Mhm.
to the ceremony. We heard a lot of the same things from a lot of the celebrants we were talking to until we finally came to Monty King, who was our celebrant, who was just like, "How you fucking going, guys? You good? What's going on?" He was just really relaxed, and we felt like he was our people. Um, and so I thought, you know what, there mustn't be many people like that out there. So there's an opportunity for me to kind of jump in and do my own thing as well. And yeah, understanding the process through our wedding helped me get a better feel of what's involved for a celebrant. And I definitely thought, based on that, it's something that I could do.
Is Monty someone that you still speak with and sort of get some advice from occasionally?
Yeah, we occasionally talk, follow each other on socials. He's a busy guy too, and I'm a busy guy as well. So I'm sure there'll be networking events in the future where we can have a beer.
And this has been sort of a bit of a drawn out process in terms of launching the business. It's been, what, 3 years to get to this point? Do you wanna talk us through
Hmm.
that process a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. I probably went in thinking this was easy initially. How hard can it be to be a celebrant? These guys look like they're having a great time whenever they're up there telling someone's story. So this is something that will be easy for me. But what I didn't consider was how much legality was involved because you are actually a representative of the government. If they knew my past, they probably would reconsider my application. But whatever. It's there's so many little things that you have to get right. Um, there's things like considering where you're standing. Are you standing to the side? Are you standing in between? Are you reading off an iPad? Are you printing your script? Um, sometimes the couples that you're working with may not exactly match your energy. So how do you adjust what you're delivering to their crowd so that their audience, is engaged and understands what you're saying? Because for me, I'm quite a big personality, so I can go right out there and go off on a tangent. And there's some crowds that just don't like that. So I need to be able to tailor things myself as well. So all of those things have kind of come into play during the process of doing the course. And then I changed jobs. I had another child in between as well. So there's a few life things that get in the way. My advice to people who are doing the course moving forward is allow yourself 18 months to complete it because it is a lot. Um, the course I did through Rose Training was quite extensive and it actually helped me set up a lot of my business templates that I now put into practice as well. So part of the course is actually setting up your own business, um, which for a lot of people who are looking to be a celebrant don't understand that that is probably 75% of the battle is actually
Mhm.
setting up your own business because there's so much involved from tax implications. You've got to get your ABN. Are you a company? Are you a sole trader? Is it just a hobby? There's so much to consider. So all of those things came into play, and eventually, once I got my life kind of back on track, we finally got to the launch phase this year, and I've done a couple of weddings now. So yeah, I'm feeling good about where it's at.
And then there's also, like, the whole branding aspect, like, are you going in as just using your name, or is you like yourself setting up the Married by the Beard branding and all of that sort of stuff as well?
Yeah, that's another element. It's the design element of it as well. And for people like I'm lucky, right? I work in a creative agency, so I understand design and content quite well because I speak to these people all day, every day, and I understand what they do. But for people who are starting at a base of zero, it's quite a lot. Like, how do you settle on what's a good business name? How do you know what is a good design? How do you know how that's going to resonate with people? There's so much to consider. Um, and I'd probably say that was the trickier part of the journey, the business side, rather than actually learning how to be a celebrant.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what would you say was the hardest part? And it's, yeah, definitely the business side, not so much the doing the actual marrying of people.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Marrying people ultimately is 20 to 25 minutes standing up there in front of people, but majority of your work is actually done in the background way before you get to that point. And so setting up the business, I would definitely say, is the most challenging part. Having good people around you who can give you advice or opinions, or recommend someone they know in a certain area is really helpful. But as many guides as there is out there to starting a new business, there's not actually one foolproof guide that will get you where you need to go. There's so many elements to consider, and each of those are different depending on the type of person you are and the contacts you've got and your knowledge in the space as well. So, yeah, I would say allow yourself time and don't put too much pressure on yourself to set up a business properly. Figure out the ABN part, figure out how much you're earning is going to be taxed as well. It's important when you're running a business to be able to put money aside for taxes, because the
Mhm.
last thing you want is a tax man knocking on your door.
Yeah, yeah. You don't want to get to the end of the year and all of a sudden you owe $20,000 and don't have $20,000 sitting around.
Exactly right. Exactly right. I've done it before when I first started DJing, and it was kind of my first experience with an ABN, and I was just kind of taking the cash and spending it as soon as I got it
Yep,
because I didn't really understand that I needed to be better and I needed to put money aside. And I always thought, oh, I'll earn more money later to help pay that debt, but that's not how life works.
yep. And now that Married by the Beard is up and running, how have those first few weddings gone? Have there been sort of any teething problems? I guess that's kind of a process of launching a business. Really, the only way to do it is to do it and find out where your weaknesses are, where your strengths are.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's what makes it so hard, I think, as a celebrant as well, especially when you're starting out, because you really need to find someone who's going to put their trust in someone who doesn't have experience doing that before. And if you consider that, A, that's the biggest day of their lives, and B, this is your first time actually,
Yeah,
being in charge of that day, there is plenty of room for things to kind of go all right. Um, Fortunately, I felt like I was over prepared for that moment. So anything that could have gone wrong on the day in my head, I'd been through that situation 100 times over, and I was ready for it. And it happened at the first wedding. Out of nowhere, we got a massive gust of wind that just it blew chairs, it blew flowers. My script was kind of going backwards and forwards, but because I'd read that script so many times, I was able to close my ceremony booklet and just speak to what I remembered from that script. So that was a big moment for me, and probably the moment that validated me being where I was when I was talking and I was remembering the script. I was thinking at the same time, you've actually got this. Like all of those nerves that you were feeling, all of those years leading up to this moment, this morning when you were walking around your hotel room and your palms were sweaty, you were picking things up, putting them down, in and out of rooms, checking you've got everything. It was all done. It was all ready and good to go. And I just needed to get there and start talking. And the moment I started talking was when I felt like, okay, I'm in my place now, and this has been the right decision. And then my second wedding was a bunch of friends as well, Rocco and Liv, a couple I've known for a long time. They'd been together for 15 years. So it was really exciting for me to tell their story. I knew some of the people at the wedding. I had a couple of familiar faces in the crowd. Um, so that made me feel a bit more at ease. And the moments where you are able to make eye contact with the crowd when you're telling a joke and everybody laughs, or you're telling a really sentimental story and you can see everyone's getting emotional. They're the really rewarding moments, I think, in those weddings as well. Standing in between two people and listening to them speak their vows to each other, coming from such a deep place of emotion and love. And it's very empowering standing there and holding the mic to their mouth whilst they say the things to their partner that mean the most to them. It's definitely something for me. I'm an emotional person. Like I definitely wear my heart on my sleeve. So for me, I really connect with those moments, and it just it reinforces my decision to do what I've done.
Awesome. And you were talking about sort of memorizing your script. I've found myself with scripts. Sometimes it's better to just put it away. Like
Yeah.
if you know you have it in your head, sometimes having it there can be a distraction, and then you start to fumble things.
Yeah, exactly. You can overthink. And as someone with ADHD, overthinking is in my nature. Um, yeah, Menti bees are always not too far away. Um, but you're right. You're right. If you know a script, and like for me, it's harder to put the script away because generally I've got 25 minutes worth of content in there, so I'm going to need to refer back to it at some point. But what I have found through the first few weddings is if you are prepared and you do know your script, you spend less time looking at it and more time looking at the crowd, and that keeps them engaged. So it's definitely better if you can to know your shit.
Yep. So then looking ahead, sort of what are some of the top tips that you have for couples now planning a wedding and sort of looking for a celebrant, or then once they find one, what's the best tips to come to you and
Yeah,
make it easier for you as well?
really good question. Look, I'll start off by saying I'm not going to be the perfect seller for everybody. There are some people who are looking for something different to what I offer, and that's totally fine. Each couple is very different, but I think if there's any advice that I can give for couples who are looking for a celebrant now, it's meet a couple, meet two or three, have a look at their socials. Your socials will give you a really good idea of their personality and their vibe. Um, I think price can often come into play, but my advice would be don't consider price too much when you're talking about a celebrant. They're all relatively roughly around the same price. There's a couple out there who are doing, some really individual fun stuff that are charging a lot more, but I think it's about the vibe and the connection that you have with the celebrant because that's what's going to be on display on the day. I know for the couples that I've booked so far, it's been very instant, the connection. And I've kind of either left that meeting or gotten off the virtual conversation knowing that this couple's probably going to book me because we just vibed on a level that was like up there. There are other couples I've met that the vibe wasn't quite there, and I knew straight away I'm probably not going to get this booking, which is also totally fine. Um, also think being organized in advance is definitely a big tip. You don't want to leave all your stress until the last 2 or 3 weeks before the
Mhm.
wedding. Because of the size of the event that it is and how much effort goes into it, there is already a number of levers that need to be pulled in those last 2 or 3 weeks. So you don't want to add the stress that could have been dealt with earlier on in the process onto all of that. And your vendors don't want to be dealing with that either as well. We want to make it as smooth as possible. So they would kind of be my top tips when it comes to looking for a celebrant or considering wedding planning.
Brilliant. And then on the DJ side as well, have there been any surprising music requests?
Oh, honestly, every week there's a surprising request. I've had Dennis Leary arsehole requested once before, which is just like, do you know where we are? We're in the middle of a wedding. I'm not playing that song. The biggest issue I think is that makes me realize why it's better that I'm behind the decks and not the person who's asking for the request is that people asking for the request are self-centered and they want what
Mhm.
they want, whereas that is probably not going to fit the vibe or the energy of what's actually happening in that place right now. So for me, it's the ability to read a room is really important as a DJ, and you might upset some people by not playing their request, or sometimes I give you a good request and you say no problems, let's do it. But I think what most people don't understand is that you need to read the room and you need to understand how to structure and layer a night as a DJ as well. And it doesn't mean dropping all the bombs in the first hour of the party.
Yep. Brilliant. Yeah, my one thing I've told my partner is no Eagle Rock. That's my one. Cross that one off the list. Nobody's allowed to play that.
Yeah, fair call. Fair call. It's a bit of a
Just because,
depressing tune.
yeah, my friends are just mental, so we don't need that at the wedding. Looking to the future, how do you see Married by the Beard developing or potentially expanding?
Yeah, that's another good question. I've thought about this a lot um, because I think as a celebrant and as a DJ, the one thing I'm operating on at the moment, the currency I'm using is time. and I only have so much time in a weekend or in a year that I can offer. So for me, the growth and expansion of Married by the Beard becomes more around what is a product or service I can offer that can scale rather than how can I charge more for my services, because I don't think that's the answer.
Mhm.
Um, I think there's a market out there. I'm not going to go into too much detail right now, but I have got kind of the wheels in motion to expand the business into a product offering as well as a service offering, that can grow exponentially as well. So working on that with my wife at the moment to see what that looks like, and stay tuned, because maybe in the next 2 or 3 years you'll see something popping up that you'll remember this conversation by.
Awesome. Yeah, and I guess with like a marriage celebrant, it is such a personal thing. It's not like you can just bring in a new employee and they can do a wedding at the same time as you are.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And there's so many rules and regulations around when you have to notify your marriage celebrant of a wedding. You've got 30 days before your wedding, 30 true days, so really 31 days before your wedding. You have to have signed a document called the Notice of Intention to Marry. And that document gets submitted after the wedding, but it needs to be signed and stored 30 days before the wedding. So it's not something you can wake up and go, hey, let's get married tomorrow. That can't happen unless there's a really valid reason and you've been approved a shortening of time, as well. And I know I've kind of gone off on a tangent there, but to answer your question, I'm struck by time. So that's it. That's all. I can only do so much.
Yep. So finally, where is the best place for people to support you and track the creative journey moving forward?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely my socials. It's at Married by the Beard, for social, for Facebook and Instagram. My website launches next week, which is really exciting as well. Marriedbythebeard.com.au. Surprise, surprise. So those are the three best places. I'm always uploading content, photos of my weddings, tips, tricks, whatever it might be. Definitely jump on my Instagram and yeah, connect with me. I'd love to chat with anyone who's thinking about their wedding in the future.
Awesome. Alrighty. Thank you for taking the time to chat with me and good luck with everything moving forward.
I appreciate it, Jamie. You're a legend. Thanks for your patience, man.